causing the bigger units to be have the same composition or to be uniform. Through many hundreds of years, people has influenced the forest, and also the natural disturbances have influenced the forest. For example, when we were talking about the forest drainage and the ditching of the forest, okay, this is good and we can have more increment and more timber, but the other problem which very quickly will be evident is the storm damage. Because you know, when the trees are growing on the peatland, the roots, they stay quite in a superficial layer of the soil, because the water is down there, and it means that wind can very easily, even you know, now the winters are quite warm also here, I think because of the climate change, and the ground is not frozen, and then the winter storm can damage a big area of the forest. Of course, it happens also in a natural forest and without the people, but still then manager has to decide that which size of the forest he can salvage to take some wood away. So that depends again on the year. He cannot salvage all the area. Some is left in the forest and it stays there forever. So people activity, or the human activity, and the natural forces, they are combined here, and that creates such a quite a fine mosaic. We saw on the forest inventory map that here we have these sections like 18, 19 hectares, but there are subcompartments in that, which are by the forest inventory people. They are inventoried, they write down, and if this is the uniform compartment, then they mark that out as an independent unit. Sometimes these units in some places they can be 0.5 hectares, 1 hectare. So it means that the forest mosaic is quite fine. When we have colleagues, visitors here from Canada, from Siberia, Russian colleagues, then they say that, wow, it's incredible, you walk 100 meters in the forest and you have something completely different. That doesn't happen in such a landscape which is driven by natural forces.
We have subcompartments 0.1 hectares.
Even that, yes.
So in that sense, your original idea of 300 by 600 meters is not really useful for management, is it? I mean, it looks nice on a map, but do you have any?
Yes.
How do you manage really your forest? I mean,
when we manage, we take account the subcompartment.
Yeah, that's a good question, because yes, the smaller unit is now that.
But also inventory. I mean, here you have a multi-strata forest. This traditional inventory is not very helpful either.
The greater forest block, it gives the road between the blocks, and then we can transport the timber with tractor through the road between blocks.
Yeah, but if you now say that inventory will face serious problems.
No, you cannot use the traditional inventory with your mean growth and your, because you have here you have a so high variability, so your variance is very.
That is an interesting thing, because well, the inventory people, they also mark down the dominant tree species, and the management diseases are usually made by dominant tree species, which is good and which is bad, because of course then some other tree species, if you have mixed stands, then you can make errors and make mistakes and suffer the loss. But if you have a clean one species stands, then it works. You can calculate the time for the final cut or for the final harvest. You can plan the regeneration for the trees. It is more or less. And yeah, inventory people, in some cases, they even mark that out, that complicated stand structure. But then they still have to say something.
But about here, for example, what would you suggest as a good management for these forests?
For this forest, okay, you can easily say that that we could keep that a conservation area.
That's the easy way out. Huh?
Okay, but
Come on.
if you want to have a more complicated thing, then the easiest way is actually to clear cut these. Yeah, because the big trees, they have reached maturity. They don't grow much further. And as this is the peatland, the regeneration is still a very complicated question. If, as a manager and interested in the economic profit, I could clear cut that and I would leave that for 10 years for the natural regeneration. Then it will be more or less clear what happens here. If we don't get indeed anything, then there is an old-fashioned forest planting tradition. You cut in the bush like the lines, and you plant the trees there. But I think that this is not necessary here. We have enough valuable tree species, and then with the pre-commercial cutting or the tending of the stand, you can sort out what do you leave for the forest and what is unnecessary but you know, this is a big and very, I would say, not well-grounded decision, because to know what is valuated in 50 years, in 100 years, it is impossible.
No.
You have to decide still based on the knowledge what do we have today, and perhaps then make some guesses and think that what will be the future. As for example now, okay, when the regime changed here, then many foresters, they were like advised to afforest the field, putting there the hardwoods like birch. Okay, so in some cases also the noble hardwoods like ash or oak, but there is no guarantee that people is interested in that in 100 years or even in 50 years. With the birch, that has been a success story. Yes, birch has now the nice market condition or the situation here. We need the birch for the plywood production, and birch is also used for the paper production, so that is okay. But in my case, when I do everything to grow the maple trees, okay, perhaps I will be king of the country or I have many statues in 50 years, but maybe I will be a very negative character. Whole story.
So when you mentioned before that you have some problems because of pine regeneration.
Yes.
So in these kind of cases, do you decide to leave the pine trees and maybe open the area more for natural regeneration? Because if you would cut these big trees out now, you would probably get more spruce.
Yes, that's true. That's correct. Pine seed trees, it's a big issue on the more dry sites. On the Vaccinium site type, pine natural regeneration doesn't work. So.
They say
Too wet, probably.
when you clear cut
You have
and
to
have
start
this
shifting cultivation.
spontaneous regeneration, then you probably get some kind of a mixed forest.
Yeah.